Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. So in the last video, we built the foundation of our RAG system. So we load the document, we split into smaller chunks, and we converted those chunks into embeddings, right? We wrote the functions for all these actions. So right now, our system does not really answer the questions yet. So that's why in this video, we're going to be focusing on finishing the project, where we will build the retrieval part, where our program, it will find the most relevant chunks from the document, right? Then we will connect these chunks to an AI model. So for example, instead of guessing, the model will answer the questions based on the information that we gave it, right? Through the document. So by the end of this video, we should have a fully working chat with your PDF system. And we're going to be continuing to write all of these using Python, right? So if you have ever wondered how the tools like ChatPDF or any notebook LLM or AI documented assistant work, right? How they work behind the scenes, especially. This is basically the core idea. So if you guys are ready, let's go ahead and begin. Okay, so here's a quick recap of what we have done. So first we take the document and we load it and we turn it into chunks, right? Then we convert these chunks into embeddings, which are the vectors that we're going to use to store their meanings, right? So that we can compare them later on. And after we store them in our vector store over here, we can actually compare them and see their similarities, right? And we're going to be using this code, and now we can continue by the retrieval. Now comes the key idea for the retrieval. It is that when a user, say, asks a question, we don't directly send it to the AI, right? Instead, we find the document and we search for the most relevant chunks. And we give these relevant chunks to the AI so that it can give the correct answer, right? And that's what makes RAG really powerful. So if we come over down here and we can start by making a function for it. So say define retrieve query. Then we say vector store. And we set the top k equals 3. Then we write the query embedding equals get embedding query, right? Then the relevant chunks equals vector store dot search query embedding. Then we set the top k equals top k. And finally, we return the relevant chunks, right? So basically what we do here is we take the user's question, right? The query embedding, and we convert it into the embedding. Then we compare this embedding with all our previously stored embeddings. Then the vector store returns the most similar chunk, right? And that's it. This is basically the key idea of retrieval. And before we move on to the final step, we have one more step to take, which is the generation, right? And basically the key idea of generation is that this is where we actually use the AI model, right? The important part is we don't just ask AI the question, we first give it the chunks, right? And then it answers based on the chunks that we have given it. So it doesn't just guess or think about it, it's reading the document and gives a correct answer. So let's go ahead and write the generation function. So come down here, define generate answer, put in query, and put in the context chunks. Then we write the context, and we define the context, right? So new line. Then we join it with the context chunks. Over here. Now come down to make the prompt, right? We need to give the assign the roles. We have done this before in our previous videos where we just tell the AI its role in this environment. So let's say you are a helpful assistant. Answer the questions using only the context below, right? So it doesn't just guess, it actually looks at the document and thinks based on the document or based on the info. Then we can say that if the answer is not in the context, say I don't have enough information, right? Okay. Let me scroll down so you can see it as well. So now we need to set the sample space where the user gives the context and the question, right? So we come down here, we say context and context, right? So we set the space that we basically let the system know that after we tell the AI its role, it should expect a context input from the user. Then we get the question. So after they have given the context, the system should expect a question input to the query, then the answer. Right? So now we need to write a response, which will be the client chat modifications, right? Completions dot create. Now we need to set which model we're gonna use, and in this one I'm personally using GPT-4o Mini, but you can feel free to use any other model you want, like Cloud. It's up to you. Then we set the messages, define the role, so user, set the content as prompt. Right? And finally, once we have done this, we can now head over to return the response, the choices, dot message dot content. Right? So basically what we do here is we combine all the chunks, right, that we take into one context. So we just combine them together. Then we build a prompt and we telling the AI to only use that context, right? And it's very important actually to include this prompt, because otherwise the AI might start to do something called hallucination, where it gives completely false or irrelevant information, right, without using the prompt. So that's why it's important to tell the AI its role and how to proceed by using the document. And now we need to write the pipeline, which is where we just basically connect everything together, right? So we need to define the ask function. They define ask query vector store. Then we print printf question and the query. Then come down here, we write the chunks and we get them through retrieval function. So we retrieve, query, and vector store. And finally we generate the answer, right, based on the chunks. So generate answer, query, and chunks, right? We take the query and we take the chunks and we find the right answer. And once we have the answer, we print it. Answer, answer. And finally, after we print it, we also return it so we can use it further. So yeah, we retrieve the chunks here, we generate the answer, and we print the result. We just connect everything we've done so far in this function. Now finally, once we are done, we just need to add the main function, right, the main script, which we use. And let's see, if name, we do this in all the scripts actually, since the main is important to add. Print loading document. So once we do that, now we load the chunks again. Load on chunk. So this is just how we deal with the document, right? When we give the document, it will read the main. Now we're gonna add a PDF, which will be called sample PDF for testing purposes. However, you can change this obviously to the name of your PDF. And if you want to make it more advanced, you can set it to a variable that can be defined based on the name of the PDF. Printf. Now for simplicity purposes, we're keeping it to the name of the sample PDF we're using, but it can obviously be changed. So now we print created the chunks, how many chunks we have. Okay. Then we set the embeddings. Embed chunks. Store. We set it to vector store. Store.add chunks and embeddings. And finally, we just print that it's ready. We have everything ready. Vector store ready. Now we set the questions that we want to ask. So for our question, we're just gonna ask very simple questions like ask, and we're also obviously gonna test them as well. Let's say ask, what is the main topic of this document, right? And we store, then ask, can you summarize the key points? And we store it. Ask, what year was this written? Okay, so now that we have finished the code, we're gonna set these questions. Now you can change these as well. It's up to you, you can experiment with it. And before we continue, we need to say that when you create a folder, and you need to include the text or the document that you're going to be using in the same folder as the script. And we also need to add the API key. So to get it, you just add it to the .env in the folder. You just head over to openai.com. Then you can go to API keys and generate a new secret key. And this is going to be your API key. You need to make sure to include it so that the model can work with the OpenAI. And once you've done that, you can upload your document to the same folder as your script and .env folder, right? And now we can run the script to check the questions and whether they're correct. So now let's take a quick look at the sample PDF we're going to be using today. So we just have a PDF about artificial intelligence or AI. So it states that the document was created in 2026 and some information about it. Now, after we see this, we can now run our program and see whether the AI can correctly answer the questions that we have asked it. And before you run it, make sure to add your document that you're going to be testing on to the folder of the script and the .env file. And now we can test whether it can read the questions accurately and answer them. So we head over to the terminal here in the IDE, and we head over to our directory. Then we write Python rag.py, right? The script's name. And we got an output. Let's see. So it loaded the document here accurately, created two chunks, embedding chunks. Then it says the vector store is ready, so it has stored. Now it starts answering the questions. So the question is, what's the main topic of this document? The main topic of this document is artificial intelligence, machine learning, deep learning, embeddings, and RAG systems. And this was correct actually, as we can see here. It's about AI, right? The whole document is about AI pretty much. And the second question, can you summarize the key points? And it makes an answer. So it says that AI performs tasks requiring human intelligence, and so on and so forth. And if we head over to our document now, we can see that it does answer correctly, right? These are the main key points in the document. Then our last question, we asked it, which was, what year was this document written? And it correctly answers that it was written in 2026. And as we can see, we blatantly stated in our document that it was written in 2026. So the purpose of this is to show that the AI can actually access the document, read it, summarize it, and think based on the document information, and correctly answer back to the user. So this is the main idea of RAG, and it's a really powerful tool to actually use. Alright, so that's it. We now have a complete basic RAG system, right? We start with the document, we break into chunks, we create the embeddings, and we search for the most relevant information, right? And then we give that information to an AI model so that it could answer the question using our own data. And the important thing to understand is that the AI model is not magically memorizing our PDF. It's actually, so this is how it works. So our program first retrieves the useful parts, then the model uses those parts as context to generate a better answer. And this is pretty much the main idea behind RAG. So of course, the real world RAG systems, they can be much more advanced. For example, they can have better chunks, better search systems, better databases. Maybe they can even be implemented with agents, and this can be much more advanced, right? However, the foundation is exactly what we have built here today. So understanding RAG, you can actually understand one of the most practical ideas that's used in modern AI. So if this video helped you, make sure to like and subscribe, and comment on what topic or AI project you want me to build on next. And thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.